Welcome to Speaking Cinema, serious movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you live on the Broadway stage right here in Hollywood, California. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Speaking Cinema. You can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. You've probably figured that part out already. I am your head choreographer, Mr. Jibber Jabber. With me, as always, is the star of the show, wearing only sequins and tights, Kevin.
Theater.
Also joining us, up on the rafters, once again, is the stagehand that is really keeping this whole show together, Emily.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good. Excited.
Alright, you should be excited because this week on the Jibber Jabber, all that work, all that glitter, all that pain, all that love, all that crazy rhythm, all that jazz from 1979. Our second musical here on the Jibber Jabber. Editor's note, see episode 29, Like Christmas, for our first foray into the feature film subgenre musical.
Yeah. This one's a little different, though.
And that's why we're inviting Emily back, our current and reigning musical enthusiast.
Yep.
Have you seen this movie?
No.
We'll get to that in a minute, but a hole in your game, perhaps? More on that later. Starring Roy Scheider, really?
Yeah, of Jaws fame.
Jessica Lange, Leland Palmer, Anne Rickling, Cliff Gorman, John Lithgow, same thing as Jonathan Lithgow,
Yeah.
and Ben Viernan. Directed by Bob Fosse, written by Fosse and Robert Allen Arthur, produced by Columbia Pictures, distribution by 20th Century Fox. Andrew Lloyd Webber or Robert Johansson? We're getting straight to the heart of the matter right now. Pick one.
Weber.
Rogers and Hammerstein.
I'm gonna go Roger Hammerstein too. If you're not familiar, Broadway legend Joe Gideon juggles editing a feature film, staging a Broadway musical, chain-smoking loose women, his failing heart, and staring down his own mortality.
And other fun things.
That's only the tip of the iceberg, Kev.
That's the first reel, homie.
Wow, that sounds intense.
Interesting. This is Bob Fosse's second to last film before his death in 1987 of a heart attack. All That Jazz is a thinly veiled retelling of the tumultuous time in Fosse's life when he was trying to finish his film Lenny while also staging the Broadway classic Chicago and New York. An issue that many of us can relate to.
Yep.
When you're so successful that your AAA list projects are just running rampant right over each other. Many of the characters from this movie are based on real people from Fosse's life. Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire?
Fred Astaire.
Gene.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
All right. The film was inspired by Fellini's 8½, another film about an artist's personal turmoil while trying to make projects.
Oh, I've heard of
A
that one.
classic in that genre.
Indeed,
Yeah.
French New Wave. You've heard of it.
No.
Not French New Wave?
It's Italian.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Fellini.
And
Fellini.
it was post-Italian neo-realism movement.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, it was one of the first to really break out of that mold, where they had very surreal moments where the neo-realist movement was very grounded in reality, but then Fellini was like, but this is my reality. Like, this really weird shit that
Yeah,
goes on.
that's
Like,
right,
this is what
that's
I was
right.
actually feeling. So,
My college film elitism is coming back to me. It's a little rusty.
see? You
been a
gotta
couple of-
shake it off every now and
It's
then.
been a couple of years. It's been a couple of years. Production lasted for 101 days. Post-production lasted for 8 months. The $6.5 million original budget quickly ballooned to $10 million. It took a private screening of mostly finished material to convince Fox to give Fosse the money to finish the elaborate final musical number, Cats of the Lion King.
Lion King.
The Lion King.
I'm going to say I'd probably enjoy Cats more just because I like a good old-fashioned train.
Cats has some good songs, but that story is fucked up. It's just all over the place.
Quickly elaborate.
Mr. Mistopheles is a great song, but that story is just like, there was a joke on SNL back in the day when Norm Macdonald was the head of Weekend Update. Mm-hmm. They said, Cats had its 500th performance on Broadway. It's also the 500th time a husband has turned to his wife and said, what the hell is this?
Stanley Kubrick, after having seen this film after it was released, believed that it was the best film he'd ever seen.
That is high praise.
It is. Broadway or the West End?
Broadway.
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 Never
because-
been to the West End.
Never been to the West End. Never gonna go.
My mom's
I
cousin.
have my reasons.
cousin makes a yearly sojourn to the West End to go
Really?
see shows.
Wow.
He's a theater teacher in Spokane.
Oh,
Oh.
really?
Yep.
Wow.
At one
Well,
high
that
school.
makes-
And on a theater teacher's budget, huh?
He can do it. He
Interesting.
can do it. So
You see that Danny Boyle Frankenstein with Sherlock in it?
I was interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably a hot ticket back in the day.
As of this recording, All That Jazz is available on Criterion Edition Blu-ray and DVD, which is our preferred method that you watch it. However, it is not streaming, and not available for digital purchase.
That's from what I could find. It was not available.
Yeah, so I guess you're gonna have to go with our preferred method.
I mean, you should always get that Criterion Blu-ray. Yeah, you should.
You shouldn't always get it. Do you need it for fucking Michael Bay's Armageddon?
I mean, that's not on Blu-ray, but whatever.
Okay.
Not on Criterion Blu-ray. I think that Criterion's out of print, actually.
They're always out of print.
Yeah, Armageddon and The Rock.
They only do like 3,000 of them or something, right?
I don't know.
It's a limited, because they're licensing it from other people, so it's always limited.
Sure.
So how the fuck is that movie Criterion? Anyways, we're gonna real quick play a game of What This Movie Musical Edition. See what we feel about musicals in the modern era.
What this movie?
Chicago.
Great.
Love it.
I've never seen it. West Side Story.
Haven't seen it in a long time. Need to see it again.
I like it.
Hate it. I fucking hate West Side Story. Sweeney Todd.
Great.
Never seen it.
Never seen it.
What?
No.
I need to watch that.
That's gonna be our third musical episode.
I love Sweet.
I will note that down now. Grease.
Hate it.
Whoa.
Hate Grease.
Wow.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah, it's my favorite, dude.
I know a lot of people like it.
If you could say, if there's one fundamental issue, what would it be?
Is the car flying away?
It's a fairy tale.
It's stupid.
It is. I mean,
Also, Olivia Newton-John's hair. Ugh.
listen, no one wants to touch that hair. It feels like it'd be really like a texture that would like what do you know what I'm saying? Like a chalky texture.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't want to touch that hair.
No.
And you certainly don't want it touching your pillow either.
No.
But that's how you make out with her in a car. Fiddler on the Roof.
It's good.
I like it.
Never seen it. Mamma Mia.
Hate it.
I like it.
I appreciate it for what it is, but I am not a fan of ABBA.
It's so
No.
fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
So fun.
And the movie version, Colin Firth and Pierce Brosnan, they're like, oh wait, we can do whatever we want. Fuck it then. So I respect that. Hairspray.
Don't like it.
I used to really like that when it first came out.
Right.
On repeat viewings, it's terrible.
I liked it when it came out, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Into the Woods. We're talking about movies here, guys.
Movie version was okay.
Interesting.
I thought.
Didn't like it.
The movie version to me was absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. I'm gonna say it one more time. I fucking think that movie's garbage. Rock of Ages.
I never saw it.
Never saw it.
Never saw it, and I kind of want to see it.
Just for the sheer camp.
Yeah, because I want to watch a car wreck in slow motion, but like not like in a mean way,
In a fun way.
in a fun way. Little Shop of Horrors.
It's fun. It's a good movie.
I want to see it so bad.
Yeah, me too. I've never seen it, and I have
Yeah.
no reason.
I thought you were a musical expert over here.
Hey.
Emily.
Emily's musical expertise, if I was to speak for her, as her manager, and I will, is stems from the 19 teens to the 1960s.
The golden era.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's your forte.
That's my...
She don't mess around with this Silver Age.
No.
Dancer in the Dark.
Very depressing, but very good.
Never seen it.
I refuse to watch that movie.
Oh, you should. It'll make you sad for like a month, but it's
I
fun.
don't want to do it. Reefer Madness the musical.
It's amusing. It was on Showtime. It's pretty funny.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of Reefer Madness, which I bought when I was a teenager and immediately regretted because I was like, this is boring.
Well, I said Showtime did like a parody musical of like the horrors of marijuana, and it's pretty good. It's got Alan Cummings, Kristen
Oh.
Bell, other people. It's fun.
Oh,
It's worth a watch. You
I
know?
should definitely watch that.
All right, so back to All That Jazz. Kev, have you heard of this movie?
Sure have.
Yes, I have.
I have heard of it, but probably through a Simpsons reference.
Most likely.
Most likely. Have any of us seen it? And Kev, why'd you pick it? Em, have you seen it?
No.
I've not seen it. Kev, you've seen it?
I
You
have
picked
seen it. Saw it in film school back in the day. Mm-hmm. Picked it because I think it's a very different take on a musical. It's a very personal take on a musical that I think you rarely see. It's like one very personal story told in a completely different, exciting way. And I've just never seen a musical attempt to do what this has done before. And plus Bob Fosse, he's a legend. Was a legend, will always be a legend. And this is probably his greatest film.
Probably his greatest film.
Yep.
Bold. So it's a movie about putting on a musical, correct?
Correct.
Again, I've not seen this movie. Do you like going to actual... We're going to diverge, as much as I hate doing this, away from talking about actual movies. Do you guys actually like going to the theater and watching a musical?
I do. You know, I've done it in Broadway, LA, small towns. It is a completely different experience that you can only get on the stage. You know, it's this weird, again, a show that you cannot get anywhere else.
Right.
And I don't know. There's good ones and bad ones, and I've seen my fair share of both. But
name one good one and one bad one right now.
The Book of Mormon and The Producers were both fantastic. Showboat, it's okay.
The look of disgust on Emily's face right now.
Yeah, no, I like seeing them live. They're fun.
Famously, when we first moved to LA, you and me went and saw
Wicked.
and when I say we went to the Pantages and saw the Wicked, I mean that we could not have sat in a seat further away from the stage. It was literally the very back, the very top, like in the last row, and to the right. Like if you were in the rafters working on this thing, you had a better seat than us.
We were in the corner.
Yeah,
Tucked
like
into the corner.
row triple Z seat 1 and 2.
Would you say you were defying gravity?
Yes.
I would say almost. Isn't that how that song goes? I'm almost defying gravity. No. Okay.
But that established to us that it didn't matter where we sat.
Because that show still was fucking
It
great.
was still great, and
Yeah,
we didn't.
blew my mind.
It wasn't, we didn't view it as like the most horrible experience ever, which is great.
I've never seen it.
You should see
I've
it.
never seen Wicked.
It's worth it. Until people like you see it, we'll never get a movie version because they're just gonna keep touring that fucker
I guess so.
until the wheels come off.
It's so good, Kev. You'd like it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So I guess to answer that question, I think I like live theater in general, and I think we don't go to a lot of live theater. I think a lot of live theater.
Which, shame on us. There's a lot in LA.
But
we should be
Yeah.
going to.
there is, and there's lots of small.
And community theater can be good too.
Right, like me and Emily saw Scary Movie the Musical.
Yeah.
Which was great. It was a slasher movie musical, and at the end you could vote for who the killer is. They used something algorithm on Twitter to figure it out.
That's cool.
We great.
saw Reanimator.
Oh my fucking
which
god,
was
so good. Oh Jesus,
That was just hilarious.
we sat in the splash zone, which Matt was like, I don't want to sit in the splash zone, and I'm like, then you can
What's the
fucking
point?
leave.
Just go home.
Yeah, I'll call you an Uber right now. You can get the fuck out of here. Yeah, that was amazing. So I love theater, and we don't go to it as much, but I feel like theater sucks. And maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, someone here or someone listening, let me know. Is there not a Fandango for fucking theater? Like I want to go to a website and say what theater's playing near me on upcoming.
The best I've ever found is LA Weekly's calendar. They have a good mix of
Okay.
films at independent theaters and then also actual theater productions. I think they have a totally separate theater calendar. So we can start perusing that. Start picking out some theater to go.
Exactly, because there was something that we passed by in West Hollywood where it was a bunch of they were drag queens and they were dressing up as famous Meryl Streep characters and then doing monologues from whatever film she was in. And so there were 8 of them. And I wanted to see it, but by the time I had seen the poster, it had already passed 2 months ago.
Yeah, there's no worse feeling in the world than seeing the poster and it's like, until January 8th, son of a bitch! Do you guys prefer movie musicals or the live stage versions of those musicals?
It depends. There's some I haven't seen, both versions, but I could say, Lion King probably works better as an animated film, but the way they did it on stage is really cool. Mm-hmm. So you can do different interpretations of it.
Yeah, it's different because sometimes for certain musicals, I have very distinct people that I associate that musical with. So if it's Gene Kelly in that role, I kind of only want Gene Kelly.
Yeah.
Or, I probably would be disappointed with somebody else. Hugh Jackman did Oklahoma. So, I like Hugh Jackman, and that was interesting, so I liked that. But, if it was another person, I probably would be like, well, I don't like that. I want my original Gordon McGray. Oklahoma.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think for me, when it's the movie version, I want it to be cinematic. Because sometimes you get a movie musical and it feels like they just plopped a camera down at the stage and just point it at it. You know, it's like they don't do anything with it. But then you get a movie like Sweeney Todd and Chicago, where they're using editing, lighting, camera movement, and different acting styles to really tell the story. And it's unique to the film medium as opposed to the stage medium.
Right.
So there you go.
I agree.
That's my 2 cents.
I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna bend it back. Ready? I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on like lore and myths and things. Wait. So there's always this element of like, you know, like the legend starts off this way and it changes slightly every time you say it, right? So like there's a legend of Bloody Mary, but then in somewhere else it might be like, you know, Thumbtack Jack, you know what I mean? And it's basically the same thing, but it's like that's mixed with like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they decided to scare children.
Okay.
Wait. So, but in listening to this, I've kind of rethought it's changed my mind on like the concept of like remakes and the concept of like new adaptations and things, because like every generation makes something their own. So in the end, what this means for my opinion on movie musicals versus the live stage thing is like, I'm cool with whatever, because every time someone does it, it's their new version of it, right? It's like, you know, they did Oklahoma's from the 50s, and then you do it with Hugh Jackman, now you're bringing in a more modern sensibility to it. You know what I mean? So every time you do it, it's that new modern sensibility, which was different in the 50s, different in the 60s, different in the 70s, different in the 80s, different in the 90s, different in the aughts, different now.
Well, and I think that it updates it and it modernizes it, so that you're at least keeping it within the popular opinion.
Right.
Because, you know, not many people...
You're keeping it relevant.
Exactly. So not many people are going to want to watch Oklahoma from the 1950s, but they might be more inclined to watch a theater production. And at least then, Oklahoma continues on into the 21st century.
That's exactly my point, is that it keeps these things live. And nothing personifies this better than the upcoming, as of this recording, the upcoming Fox presentation of Grease with like Vanessa Hudgens and fucking Julianne Hough.
Oh, the live.
Yeah, Grease live. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're like, well, why do that? Why not just play Grease on TV? But it's like, well, the idea is that we've already seen Grease on TV, right? You know, you can make a new version, which is just bringing more of a modern sensibility to it. So now all the characters are of like, you know, people who can sing now. So there's different races and different. It's our current sensibility. It appeals to people now who, you know, like I looked at the billboard and I'm like, who's Julianne? Like, huh? I don't even know how to say her name. But Huff. That word, the way that's spelled, that's ridiculous. But to people who are a fan of Juliana Hough, it's a new sense of relevance. So, I think I've officially mellowed out my later young years here.
Yep.
Because as a teenager, the idea of like remaking something was like, you fucking dicks, you ruined it. But now I don't. You know, it's just like, yeah, it'll be for them. You know what I mean? It'll be for kids.
It can be a creative crutch, or you can really modernize
right.
it in an interesting.
It depends on how talented the group behind it is.
Yep.
Right.
And the intentions they're doing of making it. You know? I feel like they remake most films because like an anniversary is coming up and they want to release a new DVD of it.
Yeah.
The 20th anniversary edition Blu-ray of whatever the fuck.
Well,
and we might as well remake it and make a couple bucks out of it too.
Yeah, why not? Musicals are definitely divisive in the film community. People seem to love or hate them, and it's absolute love and absolute hate, and with a very minor middle ground. You know,
I remember when I saw Sweeney Todd in the theater. You know, that movie, it wasn't necessarily marketed as a musical. It had like musical segments, but it didn't say like, oh, the musical of the year, whatever. And you know, singing starts like immediately in that movie, and I saw like a whole group of people get up and walk out.
Wow.
As soon as they started singing.
was the look on their face like utter perplexed? Like, what the fuck?
I mean, in the dark theater, I couldn't see, but I saw them just as soon as somebody started singing and music played, they all stood up and they left.
So in our mind's eye, is the conversation? Someone's like, "I'm surprised you wanted to go to this, Bob. It's a musical," and he's like, "What? No, it's not." And they're like, "No, it's definitely a musical." Well, the stage version's a musical. Someone else chimes in, and they're like, "If they start singing, we're all leaving."
Yep.
And everyone just shook hands on that, and they angrily hoofed it over to the McDonald's and just ate that cheeseburger. With just malice in their hearts?
Yep.
Is that what happened?
That's probably exactly what happened.
So, I mean, So why do you think that divisiveness exists?
I think people don't like people spontaneously breaking into song. They don't understand. And I think musicals are really about genuine emotion and expressing that genuine emotion. And in the modern day, that's kind of frowned upon. That's why we don't have like big melodramas anymore.
Right.
Like the Douglas Sirk type movies of the housewife who's lonely and just needs to express herself. And like those have kind of gone by the wayside because that's seen as a sign of weakness. I think. And then musicals, I mean, that's what they're all about. These songs are just singing to the rafters about how much you love somebody or how much somebody has brought you down. I think that's just not, for some people, that just immediately turns them off.
I think sometimes they're misunderstood too, because people only see them as just, you know, spontaneously breaking into song or like having like one emotion. But a lot of the songs carry the plot forward too. And it's really interesting because, at least for me, you know, that you can have a musical number and in the beginning the couple don't like each other, and then as you progress through the singing and the dancing, they have then either fallen in love, and like that's interesting because you have a very short limited amount of time to convey a plot point.
Right. In the dance number,
right,
you're conveying through visual storytelling of them dancing. It's like they're stepping on each other's feet, but then the chorus kicks in, and then they kind of start figuring it out, and then by the end of the song,
choreographed, and they're in sync. And,
right.
It's interesting, I think. But yeah, I think they can be misunderstood.
I basically agree with both of you because I mean the popular musicals has kind of waxed and waned over the years. It's
always ebbed and flowed.
And in a more, I don't want to say innocent time because I don't believe in this idea of like there was a good old day. I don't think there was ever a good old day, but I definitely think that in like the 40s, 50s, society was much more cheery and much more accepting of things that were just sugary sweet. Just culturally, willing to put that in their heart.
When World War II is going on, you'll take anything.
Well, exactly though, right? They're like I don't think audiences were like. I think they knew that this is just like cereal covered in sugar, but they're like, but that's what I want to eat.
Yep.
That's all they wanted.
Right.
That was their respite from the rest of the
because everything else was waiting to hear if your son was killed in Germany or France or Japan.
And I think in the 80s and 90s, there was definitely like when we grew up, right? There's definitely more of a like I don't want to say like an idea for like realism, but the pursuit of something that like feels real. And musicals don't feel real. They're over the top and emotional and and fanciful. Exactly. You know what I mean? I think I remember as a teenager, I'm like, I don't get it. You guys are gangsters and they're fucking dancing, but it's like it's using the iconography of gangsters to tell a story with dancing, right? No one's saying this is how gangsters act. They're just saying, hey, gangsters, that they gamble in the streets, that they fucking, Jets and Sharks, they're just two rival sides, right? So using that iconography, we're going to tell a story with dancing. Mm-hmm. And then, like, I think people don't get that that's what the goal is. I think they think that these people are pursuing absolute realism and failing completely because it's like, a fucking witch is singing about being lonely and, wicked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Totally.
So, yeah, I just think that is a cultural disconnect. Which, now that society is much more fandom based and nostalgic, and we're willing to sit through movies where there's a setup movie before you get to the real story. Star Wars,
my favorite thing in the world.
Right,
Mockingjay Part 1.
Right,
give me a break.
But people love it. But all those
but people buy those tickets.
Yeah, the thing is that people complain about that, but those movies that do that are beloved. Mockingjay Part 1, Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Star Wars Episode 7, you know what I mean? These are all setup movies, and we're in a culture where we're like, yeah, I'll sit through a setup movie to get to the payoff. I don't give a shit. The entire Marvel universe. So maybe we're priming ourselves for musicals to kind of do a little comeback where people are more accepting in that way. I don't know.
It usually just takes that one big musical movie to come out, and then that's the one that sparks the rebirth of the musical.
Grease 3, The Return of the Lightning.
I'm sure it's on its way.
My spec script is floating around.
It's been pitched.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Bob Fosse's work? Kev?
Yes.
No.
Apparently, according to Kevin, he's a legendary choreographer of stage and screen with a very self-destructive life that he had lived.
Yes, he did. He was as we said earlier, chain smoker, womanizer, but he was a devoted husband as well, and
At the same time.
devoted husband, devoted father.
What is there any like? Is there?
He was known for being just a lot edgier in the musical world, whereas you had your Rodgers and Hammersteins, you had your Andrew Lloyd Webbers that were very, again, uplifting, genuine emotion, and Fosse really kind of brought a darker edge to it in Chicago, and then he had his film Lenny, which is about Lenny Bruce, which was like banned throughout the country because it had F words in it.
Oh yeah.
You know, Lenny Bruce was a controversial comedian. Dustin Hoffman played him as he was, and it was a very controversial film at the time.
Interesting.
You know, Chicago is all about the seedy side of, like, in that show business world. The sex, the drugs, the violence.
The murder.
The murder.
Don't forget the murder.
So yeah, he's just an interesting figure. He's just a lot edgier than you would see. He actually did some choreography in White Christmas.
Really?
The scene where the people are in the skin tight black suits dancing around, that was all Bob Fosse.
Wow, that was my least favorite part of that whole
Oh, then we're in for a treat.
But my least favorite part, you mean like, you know, you still loved it, right? Because you love that whole movie.
Yeah.
No?
No, I mean, it was a
Or you think that part needs to get cut?
I could live without it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
This is gonna be fun.
Cold-blooded. All right.
So,
Well,
yeah, I've always been fascinated by his career and his personality and his film.
well, we'll give him a shot, and we'll see how he goes. Anyone else have any comments before we roll right into this film?
Nope.
Be ready.
Oh.
Be ready.
Be ready.
Yeah, be ready. This is an interesting film.
Let's dance!
Here we go.
And we're back. All that jazz.
We're back.
Yay.
Kev, how'd you watch it?
Watched my DVD copy that I own. Found it at Amoeba Records a couple years ago. It was on sale for like $5. I was like, I gotta pick that up. Someday I'll upgrade to the Criterion Blu-ray, but for now this works just fine.
Speaking of Criterion Blu-ray, me and Emily rented the Criterion Blu-ray from the library.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So we watched
got
it
that.
at home
Yep.
on a Tuesday night.
Mine was on a Monday, I believe.
Nice.
Evocative. So, we'll talk about it.
So obviously I picked this film. I think
Yes,
it's
you
extremely
did.
good. I think it's a masterpiece by definition of this feels like a completely unvarnished artistic vision. Like, this is Bob Fosse on a plate, and nobody told him what to do or how to do it. He just did exactly what he wanted, and I feel that is on screen in all of its glory. And I think it's just a really brilliant look at death and talent and the entertainment business, and it's a lot of things, and it's this bold, audacious movie, and I just think it's extremely well made. And every time I watch it, I find something different in it. So,
Is it supposed to be autobiographical in some way?
yes,
Okay.
very much so.
That's what I thought.
Okay. So I agree with you about it being him unvarnished. And I think it is an interesting movie about making media, putting on a Broadway play, what goes into that, balancing it with your life, what it takes to be that way. There's a little bit of insight in like maybe you have to be a little bit crazy to like just be this manic to do it all or whatever. Except for the last quarter of the movie, which I feel falls the fuck apart completely.
You don't like the musical number he had to fight for to get in there, because that was the last little bit that they wouldn't let him do until he got more money.
Okay, here's the thing. I think 5 minutes into this movie, I was like, I am gonna love the fuck out of this movie. You know what I mean?
When it's the chaos of dancers.
Well, just in the beginning, you come in and it's like, it's very evocative. Where there's hundreds of people on the stage. He's in the front. He's leading them. You see all their hands go up. You see them all practicing something. You see guys. They show a guy who's just 2 steps behind it. That guy's gonna get cut. And then they montage the shit out of this beginning where.
I love the beginning.
Yeah,
I
where
love the
you
beginning.
see 5 groups of people doing the number. You see a different 5 people doing the number. You see a different 5, and you see all 15 of them on stage, and he starts cutting them, and then and it goes through. You see the genesis of how a play starts, and then as the movie goes on, there's like how he's making up these numbers. The guy's writing the book at the same time. He's writing all the musical numbers, and they're creating this thing, and it's like you could see the ebb and flow of the creative process, where it's like you have this great idea, and then you have to execute it, and then you're like, I don't know, and you figure something out, and you're back up, and you're back down, and you gotta show it to people, and you gotta get their reactions, and they don't like it, and all of that is super great. Then he gets sick, and the movie it's all building to something, right? It's all pushing, I feel like, in a direction. And you get sick.
And that direction is death.
Well,
death is throughout it permeates this whole movie.
Yeah.
The specter of death.
It does literally, because there's cutaways to him talking to the woman in white, who is the personification of death. And to this movie's credit, they never say that, but you at one point figure, she's death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and then that whole set, I think, is brilliant. It could have just been a hodgepodge of just stuff, but it's an artistic hodgepodge.
it's like his office, It's
Exactly.
like tables full of photos, and he has the cameras, and he has his little editing booth,
And the makeup.
and it's
and then like neon signs, and then strategically, like when he's talking about his past, there's the dancing kid is there, and it's a very, to use the buzzword of the day, very evocative set.
evocative. But the problem is that, but then at the same time, they're also.
So you like everything up till he has a heart attack.
Yeah.
basically.
No, well, everything until he gets to surgery, and then once he gets to surgery, turn the movie off, because
That's pretty much how I feel.
because they're building up to the idea that he's trying to make a film, and he's trying to put on this Broadway play, right? And it gets derailed by his illness, and then the movie comes out and it does well, but one critic says one bad thing, and it like basically kills him.
Do we know the movie does well?
Well, the guy's telling us it does well. The
Producer
money guy, yeah. So I guess I guess you could choose to believe him or not. But yeah, after that, when it gets into these really long and just okay
The pacing definitely changes in the end.
Yeah.
but
It's very noticeable.
I would say it changes for absolutely the worst. First of all, they introduced John Lithgow, which is completely. You could cut all that out, and the movie doesn't change at all. He's like, what? I guess what when I say this, I don't think the movie presents this. I think I'm trying to fill in the blanks for this. I guess what they're saying is the show will go on without him. They will. The implication is that they will hire his rival, and his rival will finish the show. But I don't think the movie has these scenes, but it doesn't pay any of them off with John Lithgow. And there's a long scene where they're eating lunch with him, and it's like, what the fuck is the point of this?
Yeah.
And then there's also a moment where he's in the hospital and he's about to go into surgery, and it's revealed that his girlfriend cheated on him, and it's played like, oh man, like she cheated on him, but like he's been cheating on her constantly and consistently this whole movie. I'm like.
And not just her, his many women.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, she should cheat on him. There's other than romantic comedies will make you like, they think like, yes, cheat, do it. But this movie is like, dude, like you got nothing to say to this girl, dude. You're the worst. The worst. You know what I mean? So I didn't like in that last quarter, because he's shitty but a genius, and they show that all throughout the movie. He's yelling at that girl like, "Dip back, Rachel," or whatever her name is, and then he goes up and he's like, "Listen, like I don't know if you're gonna be good, I don't know if you're gonna be great, but I can make you better." And she's like, "Are you gonna keep yelling at me?" And he's like, "Probably." But he says it in a way that's like, I know, dude, I'm crazy. You know what I mean? So it's like, you get this, I feel like you get this good balance of that. But towards the end of the movie, I feel like it's very sympathetic because he's dying. But it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, your girlfriend cheated on you? Sorry. You know what I mean? Like, she literally walked in on you fucking another girl and didn't say anything. You know what I mean? Like,
You gotta juggle your women there, Joe.
well, I'm saying, like,
he got his schedule messed up.
You fucked up the schedule, and she was relatively very cool with it. So, like, I don't know, dude. You got nothing to complain about. And do you want to say anything at this point?
No.
Okay. and then also in this part of the movie, so in the whole movie we show him, he's smoking cigarettes constantly. He's taking his pills constantly. he has chest pains, he's not sleeping well, he drinks way too much, and he's burning the candle at both ends, and then he has a heart attack. He has like 2 or 3 heart attacks, like, or whatever, right? He has like one that puts him in the hospital and then another one in the hospital, and he gets a surgery, and instead of recovering, he just smokes and drinks and fucks women, and it's like, yeah, dude, that's what happens if, it's like, then he starts to die, and it's supposed to be sad, but it's like, you just showed me, he just wasted all of this, you know what I mean? Like, you got this surgery, you got your own private room, you got all this stuff, but then you fucking threw it all away. So, like, when you're dying, like, I don't feel bad for you because you fucking didn't do anything. It's not like, not like he gave it a good old honest try to fucking go straight. There's never one point in his life where he was like, I'm gonna give up cigarettes, I'm gonna push back the drinking, and I'm gonna not fuck as many women. Even if he's like, I'm gonna fuck less women just so I can look out for my own heart. You know what I mean? But there's never one time where he thinks. So it's like, this is the inevitable ending of that, and I don't feel bad for you.
Are we supposed to feel bad for him? I don't think we are.
I feel like when he's going through all the dance numbers, he's begging death, like, no, don't take me yet, or don't, whatever, let's dance. In that moment, I think they're trying to pay off all of the other stuff, and I don't think it works. That's my interpretation. Maybe that's.
I really don't think they are. I think, again, this is Fosse staring down his own demons that he was already going through, and he probably was begging for forgiveness at some point, but I don't think he's begging to us. I think he's begging for himself, and he knows he's selfish, and he knows he's doing wrong, and he knows he's on this fast track to death. And I never get a point where it's like, feel bad for this guy.
No, because he doesn't ever ask for you to forgive him. It's when he's in the hospital and the doctor says, like, this is what you have to do to change. Like, you have to make changes if you want to continue living, and, like, you just don't care. So he's just going to keep doing what he's going to do. And I think at that point, he's already made his decision. So why be regretful?
But no, I mean, but just to throw this out there, maybe I'm wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong here. But then there's fucking 3 musical numbers, but one from each one in his life: his girlfriend, his ex-wife, and his daughter. Mm-hmm. And during those scenes, he's in a hospital bed with the thing in his mouth, and there's 2 of him. There's the director version of him and him in the bed, right. And him in the bed is like, they keep being like, oh, it's your line, like, say, your line is, I'm sorry, blah, 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 and then he can't say it because he has the tube in his mouth, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to cut the line then. If you can't make your mark, we're gonna have to cut the line. So I feel like in those scenes, he's regretting all of these things, right? No?
But I mean,
he's regretting it, but I don't think he's begging for forgiveness from us, or that he's supposed to be redeemed in any way.
No, and I don't think he's trying to make the line. Like, I don't think he's struggling against basically the gag that's in his mouth. I think he's just silent.
That's the idea, is that should be what he should say.
But he's not.
I'm sorry. But
I thought he tried to say it.
I didn't think so.
Might need another watch.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I didn't notice him either struggling to say it or him ever even attempting to do it. And then the metaphor is that this is the only life he knows is directing and producing, and so that's kind of how he filters it in this fantasy sequence. And he's like, yeah, that's what he should have said, but it's just not what he's gonna say.
Or it's too late. Because he already has the piece in his mouth.
He's basically
it
dead.
Can't come out.
Dead at that point.
He's comatose.
And
so it's like, yeah.
And speaking of comatose, this last quarter of the movie is stone cold fucking boring. Stone cold boring.
Hold on.
Stone cold boring.
So, the pacing throughout is very, again, mirroring his life. This fast. Jokes, entertainment, just everything. There's drama, there's suspense, there's musical numbers. Like, that's his whole life. And it consciously stops that whole thing because he can do nothing else when he's had his heart attack and is comatose. And it makes a very conscious decision to move at a slower pace. And I think, to me, that is a very brave artistic choice. Mm-hmm. And it's showing that he has no other choice but to face his demons now. He can't cover it up with booze and sex and
his
movie and his productions. And Fosse is making a very conscious choice to slow the pacing down.
And, like, he can't participate anymore.
And he can't do anything.
In either having fun or changing the course of what's going to happen. He is a non-participant. He's only a a viewer at
And
this
then
point.
when he finally accepts death, then we get the big rah-rah musical number that he had to beg Columbia Pictures for the money to finish, and then has the audacity to put the line in, "Wow, this must have cost a fortune." And it's like, biting the hand that feeds you a little bit. But it's only then when he accepts it that you can kind of go back to being who he was, and then he dies.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. And then you get the very cynical ending of him in a body bag with Ethel Merman's no business like show business playing over the whole thing.
Right.
I just especially that. I mean, I was bored by all of those dance numbers, like with his daughter. I feel like you could have had one dance number with all of them to get that point across. I don't think there's an economy of scale going on. And then that last one where he's singing with the black guy, it just did I'm like, they've been making fun of this black guy this whole time, but now he's part of the fantasy, and the song is basically one lyric sung over and over again, and then the thing goes up and they sing it again, and the thing goes down and they sing it again, and then he runs to the audience and sings it with them. Strippers.
And then there's the Kiss knockoff band.
Yeah, they're all right. There's some good guys, but I just could not. I did not care. I like the way you guys are describing it. I'm like, oh, that seems interesting, but
that's what he did. I think
that's what he did. Wait, I will concede.
I'm not mad at you, just so you know.
I think that's what they're going for. I just think that you guys describing it is more evocative.
The word of the day
to me than what was presented on the screen. That's just my opinion. And not to throw you under the bus here, but I remember you being not too pleased with that ending either.
I mean, I'm not saying that I loved it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're having a conversation.
Sure, yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
I can more easily have a conversation about it than I can to watch it again.
All right, that's a good point. And this is not, for me, as much as I like this movie, this is not a watch everyday movie. You know, this movie, it's heavy. It has a lot going on in it. It is very audacious, and it's like a spicy dish. You get that spice, but the more you keep eating it, the spicier it gets, and then it's almost too much spice. So it's
except for the ending, which is bland.
I think maybe the spiciest part, one of the spiciest. I mean, it's a dense film, and under the guise of a musical or showbiz satire kind of thing. So I want to talk about the first 3/4 of the movie that I really, truly, 5 minutes in, I looked over at this girl and I was like, I'm going to love this movie. You know what I mean? And I think there's a great scene that personifies the absolute genius of what's going on in the first 3/4 of the movie, where he's editing the movie and the producer's yelling at him, and it's like, you shot a stand-up special, and instead of shooting it in 20 days, it took you 50 days, and you've been editing it for 8 months. We're in triple overtime. It just has to stop. It just has to stop. And then the guy's like, "Hey, look at this. Tell me what you think of the new cut." And the guy, he's completely ignoring him while he's being yelled at. He's just cutting.
And he's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "I gotta go to rehearsal. I'll be back in 3 hours or something like that." And he's not gonna come back at all, right? He's not back today. He's gonna be doing his own. So then the guy sits down, he starts watching it, and he starts crying, and he's like, "It is better. My God, it is better," right? And I feel like the way that is done, right? The word "better," not like, this is magic, not it's the best, not it's the greatest show business, just that it's been made better. I think he's genius, because I think in a lesser movie would have been like, oh my God, now it's perfect. It was crap, and now it was like, no, you've been working on this thing for 6 weeks, but it is noticeably better than when we started. That's enough, right? Where it's just that's how this thing kept getting longer and longer, because they have been making it better this whole 8 months. How much better? 5%? 10%? 1,000,000%? We'll never know. But I think that is a very that, I don't know, to me that represents the creative process, right? Where he put all this work into it just to make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And undeniably so. But still, it's costing everyone an arm and a leg and all this stress. And I just thought that really understands the creative process by not saying the best. It's not like, it's not like like Tales from the Crypt episode where someone watches the best movie of all time and it melts their brain, they become a zombie because it's just a little bit better,
Yep.
you know?
And is that worth it? You know, that I think that's another question the film asks.
Right, and it feeds into that, right? It's like we're not making.
And that feeds into when they're talking about, well, if Joe dies before this date, we get like we get like $1 million, says Wallace Shawn, and you know, it feeds into that idea. It's like you have to pour your absolute soul into this thing to make it, again, better.
Right.
Not just good, not great, not a masterpiece, but better. Like, it takes that much to make something just X number better.
But then it plays in this idea of it's the art, that's the art side of it, but then there's like also that's the show side, but then the business side is like, hey, if you get sick, we can't just pay everyone for the 4 months while you recover. You know, you can't just shoot a movie and then hold it indefinitely. We have to release this at some point. Like, there's a whole business side, and I feel like the movie really masterfully shows the intersection of those two things. Where there's a scene where they're making a dance number and everyone's on their hands and their feet and they're crawling backwards.
Yeah.
And he's like, "This is shit." He's like, "This does not look good." He's like, "Okay, let's try it this way," and they do it again, and it looks even worse. And they all just look at him like, "What now?" You know, and he just has to leave the room. And it's just, you know, there's a great moment of like, yeah, we're creating this as we go, you know, we have to make it, and it has to, you know, at this point we have to be here, and then a couple months later we have to be here because we open next year. And it's like, but we've stalled out. I don't know how to fix this part. But you got to fix it because there's no other way but forward. And then, yeah, it plays in the, is it worth it, you know? And I feel like the movie masterfully navigates that narrative. Up until the last quarter, which I've already talked about.
But I think that fits into the death part of the film too, because there's no way but forward. You have to keep going, just like he has to keep going with the play. He has to keep going with the movie. But he has to keep also going with the trajectory that he has set for himself, which is death. So it's no going backwards in any point in any process of his life.
Yeah. No, conceptually, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, again, going back to the movie making, there's really great big moments and really great small moments. We've talked about the big moments of like all the dancing and the numbers, and we'll get to that sexy dance scene in a minute.
Also, the main girl in that scene, Sandhall Bergman, in Conan the Barbarian.
Ah!
Yeah.
And the dance scene?
Yeah.
She's his love interest.
No.
No.
Not the love interest. She's topless in the dance scene, though. She's dancing on like the rafters.
Yeah,
The blonde?
but she's a love interest in Conan.
Yes,
No?
in Conan.
Yeah, yeah,
in Conan, yes, she's the love interest. But yeah,
Interesting.
that's her, man.
Also, I love, this is a complete aside, but I love how all the dancing, there's like a lot of these like little movements, like people will like shuffle their feet or like dry hump, like really like shallow gyrations, and I'm like, something about that just was very funny.
They very purely, if you've seen a lot of Fosse musicals, that is his style. It's these little moments, like little hand movements or little feet movements.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the big stuff. It's the little tiny things.
And
that
going
really sell
into
his
those
style.
little things, like the movie's full of like little things. It's full, you know, like him putting the Alka-Seltzer into the cup, you know, or like his daughter. He's like trying to talk to his daughter and kind of come up with new moves. So he's like, come run and jump into my arms, or you know, so I can do a lift. And she like quick puts her feet in the little powder bin.
Chalk?
The chalk bin, so like she get the grip, you know. It's that little extra detail that makes it like, oh, we're in a real place. All the locations they are feel real. You know what I mean? It's just there's a great sense of like the world.
And they're sweaty after dancing,
Yeah.
as hard as they do, and the outfits look real. The music feels very like of the time, and like the way they go through the process. Again, just it's very natural and very organic, and doesn't feel staged at all.
Yeah, it feels like someone who knows this world, right?
Exactly.
It's not like
which he ought to,
right. Yeah, exactly. And you're right. Like when they're appropriately sweaty at the right times.
Yep.
And it's just like cool. You know, I just feel like that the sense of the world that the director's trying to make is definitely conveyed. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's up to you as the audience to see it. And if you don't notice it, if you don't notice they're sweaty, if you don't notice the chalk things, you notice all the little things that he does, then you don't notice it, but it's there. This movie is also very funny.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's really great one-liners that I really like. Like in one of the first lines of all the producer guys of the Broadway production, they're like, he says something like, "It's colder than a which is he says like, yeah,
Say witch's teeth.
he says he gets it wrong, and then the guy responds to him and says the phrase is colder than a witch's teeth, and then the guy responds, "How would you know? You never even seen a tit."
Yep.
And it's that little like it's full of these things, and then the guy from Jaws, what's his name?
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider's telling a story about how he used to live with two women, and then one woman left and left a note, and then Death is like, "How do you know the note was for you?"
Yeah.
And the note's like, "I can't share you. You're just too much. You're too much to be shared. I want you all complete or not at all." And he's like, "I was flattered," and she's like, "How do you know she was talking to you?" And then they cut away.
Yep.
And it's just, there's so many good like.
There's like in the fantasy scene, there's like that really goofy dance number with his ex-wife. I don't remember what the subject was, but it's something very dark, and she's like, ding, and then
Yeah.
it says something.
Yeah, she's wearing like the magician's outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not afraid to be goofy.
Yep. It goes again. Everything's filtered through the show business world, which is we can assume is all he knows because he's not much of a father.
No.
Even though his daughter goes with him a lot. He sure as hell isn't much of a lover, although the ladies fall head over heels for him.
I wish you're generous with your time, but I wish you weren't so generous with your cock.
Or there's the line where after the audition, Lay's like, "God, I should have fucked him, to get the part." And she goes, "I did fuck him, and I still didn't get the part." It's everything is just charged with who this guy is, and it's again masterfully done.
Yes. So I do think that the movie really, and I mean the humor does go away in that last quarter. I do think intentionally, but I guess it builds up to a place where I don't want to. I'm not interested in that narrative. I want to see how these other things end. It's kind of like Lost, right? Like, but better, where it's like this movie is about this guy's journey till death, but I'm interested in how Broadway works.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Broadway. You have any other notes, Kev?
Show business. I talked about the end. Said that line. This must have cost a fortune. Another funny part is during the sexy dance, the way he uses the flashlights in it.
Yeah.
Everyone's just holding flashlights on them.
But he's just like very intent on it, and he's sitting next to the very uncomfortable producer.
Uh-huh.
That's just another little moment that just really sells his character in this world. So.
Yeah.
Was the sexy dance scene sexy?
Oh, it was sexy.
The air erotica.
Yeah.
Erotica.
Was it sexy, Em?
It was okay.
I would say it is erotic. Presented erotic. It's sexy in that there are naked ladies in it, you know what I mean? Intrinsically, And also, they're very pretty and very much so in shape with those dancers' legs. But it gets to a weird... They're dancing and stuff, and then it gets to a point where they're doing like contemporary dancing, and then that's when it's like, okay, we might have crossed the line. What of the dudes presented them? Was that erotic? Two guys in thongs like picking each other up and doing lifts and like
No.
pirouettes.
No.
I feel like
It just was what it was.
Tough customer over here.
Yeah.
Those guys had some abs, man.
I think
Wow.
I think with in contemporary society with dudes, just seeing a naked woman do anything is like, oh, that's cool. But I think for women, I think they want like a magic mic, right? They want to see an attractive guy like pay attention to a woman as opposed to just being there and striking poses. It's like
With another man.
with another man. But you know what I mean? Like it just was I just think that you gotta, I don't know. Do you think that's fair? That what I'm saying right here?
Well, and they're very 80s. Isn't this movie like 80s?
It was 70s.
70s.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like they have great hair.
They definitely got some 70s
They're-
floppy hair. going.
Yeah. So it's not like they're presented to me, at least from my 21st century perspective, being like, yes, those are some pretty men.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, okay, you just kind of seem dated. And in that
Six-pack
way,
abs dated, apparently.
it's what
rippling
it's
muscles on
what
those
the
guys.
abs were attached to.
Man thong that is both baggy and way too tight at the same time.
Yeah, so I mean, that description right there should tell you
It's real
how
diapery thong.
erotic it was. So I'm
true.
just saying.
Yeah, that's fun.
Although that being said, if there was a Broadway play of erotica or whatever this was going to be called, I would want to see it because that feels like a Spider-Man turn off the dark level like bonkers.
Yeah.
That you just gotta be there to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just walking that tightrope. Again, image from the movie, literally walking a tightrope of just great and failure.
Yeah.
You know, it really is that fine of a line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a scene where Gideon watches a TV critic tear his movie apart, and all that jazz received the same complaints from real life critics that the fake critic throws in it. Do you think Fosse's trying to say something in that scene, and what he's trying to say? I mean, he's trying to say something in that scene, but what is it? Is it sympathy for the artist? Is it... What is it?
In the context of the story, I think it's showing we've seen him put so much of his time into this thing, in not just his movie, but into the Broadway show.
Right, and his life into it.
And then this chitsy critic on a TV show who rates things with balloons has the authority to say something about what he did.
And guys, stay tuned. We'll tell you how many balloons we give this movie in a minute.
And then in real life, I think what Fosse's doing is he said, I already know what you're going to bitch about in this movie, and I don't care.
So I'll say it for you.
Exactly. I just think that's his very... Because if you read... Before I watched this movie the first time in film school, I went on Rotten Tomatoes and read the bad reviews and the good reviews. What are you booing Rotten Tomatoes for?
I've talked about this on the show
We
before.
have talked about this before. Okay, anyways... And yeah, those bad reviews are pretty carbon copy of what this critic says. You know, it's like, oh, the camera work is self-indulgent. The story is very sleazy and whatever. And it's just he already knew what they were gonna ding him for this movie about, and he just rubbing it in their face. He's like, I am smarter than you are. Basically, I think that's how that scene is going twofold.
No, I like it. That's good. I like that. I like that he was like daring and ballsy enough to even do that.
Yeah.
I have two sides on this as someone who's hosting a show that's talking about our opinions on movies. But there's one side of it as the person who wants to create things, the person who does create things, right? It's like you put all this work into it, you put all this stuff, and then people talk about it like they know what happened, and they don't, right? So someone could listen to this podcast and be like, these two idiots, they just sat down and just fucking blathered on for an hour and 15 minutes. And it's like, well, no, we had to like talk about what we're going to do. There was like writing the thing, there was editing the format, then we watched the movie, then we have to write the second half, and then we have to blah, blah, blah. So it's like no one understands what goes into like what you create. And certainly, if you probably watch that stand-up movie, which seems very simple because it's just stand-up fucking talking, right? That's what that whole movie seemed like.
What we can tell.
From what we can tell, right? It's called the stand-up, and it's what, you would think, oh, this guy's just fucking, he's just sitting in this little tent and he's just making this movie, but he's really pouring his heart and soul into it, right? So it does show it from that point of view. But at the same time, as a consumer of something, none of that shit fucking matters to me, right? Like, I watch a movie, it doesn't matter if anyone put their blood, sweat, and tears in this, or if they fucking, directed it by email, right? It's a product, and I see it, and I either like it or I don't. You know what I mean? And, like, that's the shitty, fair, great, bad, beautiful, ugly world that we live in, right? Like,
nobody who is going to consume it is going to put as much time and effort into it as you did making it.
Yes.
And that's the whole point, is that you give something to me that's like 2 hours long, I take it in, I watch it, I view it, and I form my opinion, versus the creator who
spent 5
years of their life doing it.
Right.
They're obviously going to have a completely different point of view.
Right.
And all that effort is, either seen on the screen or not. And in some cases, it's better to see a lot of effort, or you'll never appreciate it. Like watching Fred Astaire dance. It's like, okay, that man, he looks effortless. And
yes.
Yet it is a ton of effort.
And he did it so many times that you think that he's just not even trying.
Exactly, but he is. So
right.
It's just, I think that's kind of part of the vicious circle of creator and consumer.
Mm-hmm. But then going back a little bit, if you poured 5 years of your life into something, and it's a movie of a harbor seal puking in a bucket for 2 hours, it's like, was it worth it? That's just not good.
We all saw Andre, and we were all very disappointed.
Oh, I used to love Andre.
Seals. But yeah, if it sucks, it sucks. But it's, Fosse knows this movie doesn't suck. Mm-hmm. And he has the audacity enough to call any critic that's going to say anything bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a double-edged sword too. It's nothing becomes automatically good just because you put your heart, sweat,
sure.
and
Right.
into it.
And just because you create something doesn't make anyone have to care.
Yeah.
Right.
And I also think that, like, there's a, I just agree with that, you know? Like,
Which I think that is an idea that if X, X, and X happen, then it's good no matter what, you know? And it's like, but what if it's just not?
Yeah.
So, what if it's just not good?
And I think that's kind of adulthood too.
Yep.
Because you don't get, a gold star for effort.
You gotta work. And sometimes it fails.
And sometimes it's just not good. Sometimes you put a lot of effort into something and it's still not good enough to be anything.
And you can see that, I think you really see that in the scenes where Gideon is watching his movie in the edit room and in the projection room. He's just that look of just like, I have my hand on my face right now, of just like, this sucks and I can't, and it can't suck, you know?
Yeah.
And like, the only way I see it is that it's terrible.
Yeah.
And just that, there's that level of anguish in it too. So,
do you think this film is narcissistic?
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
But not in a, I almost said not in a narcissistic way, but not in a way that's flattering to him at all. I think it doesn't make him look like the hero by any means.
No.
No, it's not like a Birdman, or I didn't see Steve Jobs, but like Steve Jobs or like Interstellar, right? Where like those are, I feel like those are movies on a level of self-indulgent narcissism that is borderlines on like personality disorder.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I am a successful rich white guy and I do crazy things with my time that take me away and make me a bad person, but I made something cool and I did something cool, so everyone loved me. I'm sorry, kids.
Yeah, they're ultimately redeemed in the end.
Right.
Of it. In this movie, he is not redeemed at all.
Right.
I don't think he straight up dies from everything he did.
And I guess I will
With a lot of baggage unresolved.
Right, and I'll give the movie that, where it is brave enough to say like he dies and he has a grandiose death, but then the scene of the body bags being zipped up kind of brings it back to reality of like, no, nothing was resolved. He just died and this was his life. You know what I mean? As opposed to something like Birdman, where it's like he shoots himself on stage on purpose. He tries to commit suicide, and everyone thinks he's a genius.
Yep.
And then it's just, and then in the end he jumps out a window, and his daughter looks out the window lovingly, like, "Great, Dad, you did great. You weren't there for my whole childhood, but this was cool."
Exactly.
Birdman.
And in Interstellar, he saved the world.
The universe. Not the world.
Yeah, Earth, basically. Mm-hmm. Saved us from eating corn. And yeah,
That's the last crop of okra that will ever be. Okay.
I don't even like okra. So yeah, I just think this movie, it's narcissistic in a way that is not at all flattering. That is not self-serving. It's Fosse staring his own faults in the face and putting it out for everybody to see.
M?
Yep.
And sure enough, Fosse died of a heart attack. So there you go.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yep.
Too depressing for a musical? I'm gonna say no. Although I do like my musicals funny, but no.
It made me realize I only like the golden age of musicals from the 40s.
This is
and the 50s.
definitely a very revisionist take and a very interesting musical. I feel like the numbers, some of the musical parts are kind of hidden in the movie. Like his dance scene with his ex-wife is kind of, in a standard musical, that'd be a big number, you know, but it's kind of snuck in as like, this is a performance. This is something that's being expressed through song and dance, but it's much more visceral. It's much more grounded.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's, I feel, I mean, there's obvious, you know,
Musical numbers.
There's the end. There's
Sexy dance number.
sexy dance number. There's his wife and his, or not his wife, his girlfriend and his daughter have their own little musical number, and those are very obvious. But then there's kind of one slipped in there that, and I think that's a very interesting way, using all the tools of the musical in a much more grounded way.
Kubrick said this is the best movie you ever seen. Is this the best movie ever?
For me, no.
It's one of the best artistic visions ever, I think. I think it's one of the best ever. It's in a top 10 somewhere. Maybe not necessarily mine, but it's... It might sneak in there one day, because the more I watch it, the more I just process it. But nobody has ever made a film like this. And that's something I always look at when I watch any movie. It's like, is this kind of just churned out and you did a lot of genre stuff, or did somebody really put some vision into this thing? And nobody else could have made this film this way. You know, maybe Fosse writes the script, but if you give it to another director, they might take it in a whole different direction. This is his film, his story, and he pulls it off in one of the most audacious ways you possibly could. I think it's brilliant.
I think it just falls apart in the end. I think the end, the center can't hold, and in the end, it just kind of starts to fall over, and then it fell over. Is the title misleading?
No.
Well, I think I was really expecting the song All That Jazz to come in at some point.
As silly as that sounds, so was I.
And
The style's not misleading.
It just didn't, but yeah, I don't know.
It's All That Jazz. That was his life. That was everything in his life.
Yeah.
It was all that jazz.
Speaking of everything in your life, was getting some nitpicks really quick, and then we'll get into some cool stuff, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
Nitpicks, go!
My only major one is there's a part where there's a doctor who's smoking. That actor is hamming that shit up, and he needed to tone it down. Because he's, like, hacking, like... It's like, dude, like, okay, there's a joke here, and you totally killed it because you don't know how to tell a joke.
Also, smoking is dumb.
It's bad for you. Don't do it, kids.
Strippers, leave that kid alone, alright? You strippers.
You made him come in his pants.
Poor kid.
The poor kid.
And then last one, and I think we all know what I'm going to say right here. There's some shitty slow-mo after the sexy dance number, and it's terrible.
Where was that at?
There was definitely some shitty slow-mo in this movie, and I fucking hated it.
Because I see it in every movie now. I'm like, shitty slow-mo. I'm not gonna like it, but I don't remember it.
I think it was like in the transition from like, you know, when they slow the song way down and they all get naked, and it's like, you know, it's just it's like, ugh.
Okay. All right, I missed it.
Cool stuff. Great opening credits. All that jazz kind of turns into view.
His morning ritual, I always find that whole scene riveting all the times they do it.
The repetition of it?
Yep.
Yeah, and they're taking like aspirin, taking some pills, putting a thing in the water, shower.
Dexedrine, which is an antidepressant.
Okay. And then doing all those, taking a shower, getting dressed. It's showtime, and they shoot that from every conceivable angle, and it never gets tired. And it's a great bridging thing between days.
That shower has some great water pressure on it. I want
Right?
that shower. That would like
God.
blast your pores clean.
I loved the daughter. I thought the daughter was charming.
Yes.
I loved the whole scene with her and her dad and how she didn't want to leave, so she just kept her legs entwined around him. And then she was on his back, and then she went to his front, and then finally he got to put her in the cabin. I just thought she was really charming and very good as a dancer.
I could be wrong, but I think that's the only movie she ever did.
Oh, wow.
I believe so.
Oh, wow. She was good.
I also like how she like lives in her dance clothes. Like anything she's wearing underneath is like her dance clothes.
She's ready to go anytime.
Yeah, just anytime.
But I kind of like that because it's like she's the product of her parents.
Yes.
Because they're both dancers, and I'm
Right.
sure she lives in that studio, so it's kind of like it was by default what she would do while waiting for them. Mm-hmm. So I like that.
And the dance number between the girlfriend and the daughter were very cute.
Really
And
cute.
what I think that scene really does is it shows people do care about Joe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just this cynical asshole that people deal with every day
Right.
and tolerate because he's brilliant. It's like they really do care about him and his welfare.
Right.
And he's just self-destructive enough that he can't save himself, basically.
I like that, and I like how he doesn't. It's not. There's no pour me a drink shit in this movie where it's like, you know, he appreciates it, but they snap at him for no reason, or he doesn't appreciate it because he's too stupid. Like he's smart enough to know when someone's like doing something for him, you know what I mean, in this way where it's so obvious, and he appreciates it and he loves it and they love him and all this stuff, and they don't spoil that. They let you have that moment, which I think is a very mature filmmaker thing to do, where it's like no one's fucking up this moment. This moment is great, and that's the tragedy, because as things come down, we're comparing it to that moment, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Also, his outfit: black pants, black shirt buttoned up not all the way, black shoes, black belt.
Sharp.
Killer look.
Keeps it all the way through, even in that final dance number. I think
man.
he throws a few sequins in there, I believe.
When you find your all black outfit, man, why would you ever deviate?
You don't need anything else. I'm in all black right now. You're in all black right now. All black. Get that purple shirt.
I know.
Get that purple shit out of here.
I'm wearing black pants.
You're halfway there.
Yeah.
I am.
Poser.
Literally halfway.
Is there any more immature insult than poser? That is
No.
like the least
Yeah.
mature. That's such baby
Take
talk.
it back.
Poser.
No take back, sorry. Alright. So in the end, is there anything else we want to talk about before we wrap this up?
I think I covered everything I wanted to.
In the end, Em?
Yep.
In the end, do you like this movie and does it work? Two separate questions. Kevin.
I love this film. Seen it a few times now. And I do think it works in a way no other movie could.
I did not like this film, but I do think it works. I think it does exactly. It has a very clear vision.
I've had that with a couple movies on this podcast.
And I like this movie, but I don't think it works. So I think we went the whole gambit right there. Except for, we needed someone over here, Matt, to just hate everything about it. So I think that,
I bet Matt would like this film.
I bet
he's seen it.
I bet he would.
I bet he has.
Let's ask him.
Hit us on Twitter. Hit us on Twitter, Matt. The first 3/4 of the movie, I think, are a supreme movie, and then it gets too indulgent in the end, and I think that all falls apart. And it's kind of like some spoiled milk where it just sours the whole thing for me. But I guess if I was to rewatch this movie, when he has his open heart surgery, I would just turn it off, and then I probably would love it.
But you've heard me defend that second half.
Well,
that last quarter.
I think you guys are right. I just think that the execution is not up on the level. That's just me, though.
All right.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, I guess I give it 3 out of 4 balloons for the 3 parts I liked, and then they just get that 4th balloon for Friday. Yeah.
That's you on the last quarter.
Yeah. Deflate that balloon.
Exactly.
All right, so we have been Speaking Cinema, Serious Jibber Jabber. Kev wrote this episode. Emily was our guest. Music by Jeff Russell. I'm Mr. Jibber Jabber for Kev, for me, for Emily. Break a leg, listeners. See you later.
Business like show business. Ethel Merman, everybody.